Hello and welcome to today's webinar about DE-CIX Direct Cloud Services connecting to Microsoft Azure. I'm Wolfgang Tremmel and this is the DE-CIX Academy. First, a few words of housekeeping. If you have any questions during the webinar, there is a question mark or feedback button in your browser. Just click on it, type in your question, and I will follow up later by email. If you have any questions later on, you can always reach me at my email address, which is academy@decix.net. So any suggestions, questions, anything you want to know about DE-CIX or the DE-CIX Academy, just send me an email to academy@decix.net. Also for today's webinar, I have prepared a handout document. This document contains example configurations used today and some useful links about today's topic. You can download the handouts document using the handouts button in your browser. And I really suggest that you do so because I'm going to show you a few live examples how to configure the connection to Microsoft Azure. And all these examples, of course, the configs I'm showing are also contained in the handouts document. Good. With that information, let's get started. Let's get started talking about DE-CIX Direct Cloud Services and connecting to cloud providers today to Microsoft Azure. And while I'm showing the presentation and the live demo, I'm switching off the camera so you can focus on the presentation. So presentation should be visible on your screen right now. Good, here we are. So what's this all about? What is DE-CIX Direct Cloud Services? You might know DE-CIX as an internet exchange point connecting internet providers together so they can exchange traffic via settlement-free peering. But DE-CIX is much more than that. We are an interconnection platform, and we not only connect ISPs with each other, we also connect ISPs to content providers or to cloud service providers. And what you see right now is a rough overview of this architecture. We have ISPs with enterprise customers and connecting them to content providers via, for example, Globe Peer product, and also to cloud providers. So we have a lot of these cloud providers connected to the platform. Microsoft Azure is just one of them. How do we do this connection? We are using a dedicated VLAN for this, VLAN for each end customer who wants to connect to a cloud provider. This VLAN service, this direct cloud service, can be booked standalone. So to connect to a cloud provider of your choice, you do not have to participate in peering. You can simply book it on its own over your ISP, which of course must be connected to DE-CIX. But if you are peering, of course, you can also book it in addition to your existing peering service. And what's the main benefit between this dedicated VLAN and the standard peering? This VLAN comes with a reserved bandwidth for your cloud connectivity. So even if you are maxing out your peering service, you will still have the booked connectivity for your cloud service available. How does the setup look like? We have here on the left-hand side, we have a typical end customer connecting with a router to an ISP. The ISP is connected ideally via two redundant links to DE-CIX, and DE-CIX has a connection to the cloud provider via two completely separate links. And in Microsoft Azure terms, this is called the primary and the secondary link. And if the end customer books the cloud service, we always deliver two connections, one via the primary link and one via the secondary link. So as an end customer or even as an ISP, what do you need to use this service? Of course, you need a router. And the router must be able to do BGP, Border Gateway Protocol. Reason for that is that Microsoft requires a BGP session between your router and their router in the Azure cloud. Also, your router must be able to encapsulate packets queue in queue. Queue in queue is also called double tagging. So you are adding two VLAN tags to your packets, one outer VLAN, which selects if the packet goes via the primary or the secondary link, and the inner VLAN tag, which selects which of the Microsoft services you are using. But more to that later. For the Azure private peering service, you can use a private autonomous system number and private IPv4 prefixes. So you do not even have to have a real registered autonomous system. You can easily use a private AS from the private autonomous system range. If you do not know what that is, just ask our customer service team or your DE-CIX sales contact. For the so-called Microsoft peering, you need an official autonomous system, and you also need official routable IPv4 prefixes. Unfortunately, for the Microsoft Express route, what I'm talking about at the moment, IPv6 is not yet available, so it's an IPv4 only service. So how does the architecture in detail look like? I already told you Microsoft uses a primary and a secondary connection. The reason they are not calling that standard and a backup is primary and secondary connections are both active all the time, but they guarantee that only one is available all the time. Sorry, I just said both are available all the time. No, that's not right. They guarantee that one is always available, but most of the time, both of these connections are up. And you send your packets, as I said, double tagged with the outer VLAN tag, which basically tells the switching infrastructure if the packet goes through the primary or goes through the secondary connection. And the inner VLAN tag, which you configure yourself on the Azure portal, selects which service is to be used. So outer VLAN tag selects primary or secondary, inner VLAN tag selects either private peering or Microsoft peering. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to configure live connection to the Azure cloud. I'm using DE-CIX Academy's router, which is directly connected to DE-CIX for that. And I'm setting up 4 connections. 2 connections, primary and secondary, to the private peering, using also private IP addresses, and 2 connections to Microsoft peering using official IP addresses. And here you can again see how the outer and the inner VLAN tags act together. The outer VLAN tag in blue, 31 and 32, they select either primary or secondary, and the inner VLAN tag in green, here 10 and 11, select between private peering and Microsoft peering. Now, where do these VLAN tags come from? The outer VLAN tag you get from DE-CIX or you arrange with DE-CIX when you sign up for the service. The inner VLAN tag you configure yourself on the Microsoft Azure portal. Okay, let's go to the live demo. So here we go. On the left-hand side, I have the Azure portal. I make this a bit bigger so you can see it easier on the screen sharing. And on the right-hand side here on the bottom, I have a console to my router. Let me log in first. And here on the top, I have, so you can easily see what this is all about. Here on the right-hand side, I keep the network diagram so you can see what I'm configuring. So let's get started with configuring private peering, which connects your infrastructure, your router, to the Microsoft Azure cloud and whatever cloud services you are using there. The first thing you need to do is you need to set up an express route circuit. I'm going to show you how to do that, and to make things easier, I have prepared something. So let's click add a resource and let's type in express route. So setting up an express route, it's basically very easy. The Microsoft portal is fantastically easy. Give this circuit a name. I'm calling it DE-CIX test. And you have to select a provider. And of course, since this is the DE-CIX Academy, I'm selecting DE-CIX here. You have also to select a location. Talk to us, talk to your sales contact, talk to the customer support team if you are unsure which location to use. Usually, I guess you would use Frankfurt. The next thing, you have to choose bandwidth. This is the bandwidth for the primary and the secondary. So 50 megabits gives you 50 megabit of private primary service and 50 megabit of secondary service. And please, this bandwidth has to be the same bandwidth you have arranged with DE-CIX. Otherwise, if you choose a higher bandwidth here at the Microsoft portal, DE-CIX would shape you to the lower bandwidth you have selected with them, and vice versa. So to not, if you do not want to waste any money, select the same bandwidth here at Microsoft you have selected with DE-CIX. And also, if you want to upgrade later on, you need to talk also to DE-CIX to have our traffic shaping adjusted. It's not enough just to change the bandwidth at Microsoft. You always need to change it with Microsoft and with DE-CIX. So that's basically it. You could click Create Now. I'm not doing that because it takes some time for all these things to be provisioned, and I have prepared a fully provisioned circuit already here called DE-CIX 3. This is basically what happens after you had clicked Create on the last one. And you see here is a so-called service key. And once you have created your express route circuit, you have to give this service key to DE-CIX customer support so they can provision their side. But it is already provisioned here, so let's continue. Let's configure this express route service via DE-CIX. So here we have the services Microsoft offers. We have the Azure private peering and we have the Microsoft peering. Azure public basically is no longer offered. It's still in here only for completeness. So we are now configuring the Azure private peering. We have to give it an autonomous system number. As I said, for private peering, it can be a private AS or a public AS. I'm using the DE-CIX Academy AS number, so 196610, and also we have to configure 2/30 IPv4 subnetworks. And this can be a private or a public network. So I'm using private IP addresses here, 2 networks, and just have to configure them. Oops, that was the wrong one. Let's go like this. And the next thing, you have to configure a VLAN ID. This is the inner VLAN. So in our example for private peering, it is the number 10 here from that diagram. So I'm configuring here number 10. The shared key we do not use. Basically, if you want to have an MD5 key on your BGP, you can use that. It doesn't help very much, so it's basically, oh, there's a typo. So, okay, Everything is ready, and I'm clicking here on Save Now. So this is now deployed on the Microsoft side, and I'm now configuring my router. For the router, I have to configure 2 sub-interfaces. For this, I have already configured the main interface. The main interface, the important part is that the MTU you are choosing is big enough for the VLAN double tagging. I usually just configure an MTU of 9000, which is always big enough. Now let's configure the 2 sub-interfaces for primary and secondary. And if this is too quick for you, as I've said, you can read it in the handouts document, which you can download. So let's have a look what I have configured. I have configured here the outer VLAN tag 31 for the primary and 32 for the secondary, and the inner VLAN number 10, like the same one on the other side, to select the private peering service. So when everything is right now, I should be able to ping the other side. So the .1 is my address and the .2 is Microsoft, and it's working. I can ping Microsoft via DE-CIX DirectCLOUD connectivity. You can also check on the Microsoft portal if you're visible. If you go back and click on the service again and click here on Azure Private, you will see a link here. It says Get ARP Records, and here you should see the MAC addresses of your router and of the Microsoft side as it is read from the router. So here we have on premises, that's the Academy router with its MAC address. Very, very easy. Okay, next step. The next step is to configure BGP. I have configured an autonomous system number, and so I have to configure here my BGP router to talk to the Microsoft router. Again, I have prepared the configuration. Just let me cut and paste it. And what can we see here? The Microsoft AS is 12.076. I have configured a few route maps so that it fits into my routing infrastructure, and I'm configuring 2 neighbors, the 31.2 and the 31.6, one for the primary and one for the secondary connection. And if everything is all right, I should see these 2 BGP sessions coming up. Let me have a look. Show BGP summary, and I just include Microsoft. So that's the 12.076. And here we go. We have 2 BGP sessions with Microsoft up and running. And if this is up and running, I can also use the get route table here on my Microsoft portal. So it shows me what Microsoft receives in terms of prefixes from me, and they are just receiving a default route that I'm sending to them. Sending to them just a default route, and that's my next hop address here. All very, very easy. And for whatever strange reason, I only see the one via the primary. Where do I do that? Oh, here it shows secondary. Of course, secondary is also visible. Good. So, but we are not receiving any prefixes from Microsoft yet. Let's have a look how we can get that. For this, we need to configure a so-called virtual gateway, and this takes way too long, so I have prepared this. So I have created a test network that's a virtual network. So I have configured the network 10.20, and I want this network to be announced from Microsoft to my router. How to do that? So let's go back to the portal and let's select the test gateway I have prepared. That's a gateway. You can create any number of gateways at the portal. Of course, you have to pay for them. And what we do next, we need to connect that gateway to our express route circuit. So I go to connections, I click on add, I give it a name, call it test connection. The connection type is express route in this way, and I have to choose a circuit, and that's my test circuit to DE-CIX here, and I'm clicking on OK. So the connection to the gateway, from the gateway to the express route, is now being created. And it says updating, and while it says updating, it is connecting to the gateway. And I also have to add some networks to that. Let me have a look if this now works. It always takes some time. Nothing is visible yet. Let's have a look here in properties, no, configuration. Usually it's very quick. Sometimes it takes a bit longer. And it's still updating. Yeah, that's the stuff you do not want to happen during a webinar, but Microsoft services sometimes take a little bit longer. It's still updating. Okay, if it takes too long, oh, now it has been created. And if you have a look at your router, you now receive a prefix. So show BGP neighbor. It receives now the 10/20 prefix I have configured on the Microsoft side. And it is routed here next top to the Azure cloud. So we have now configured a private network inside the Azure cloud, which is routed over the express route circuit via BGP to your own router. And that in 10 minutes. That's not too bad. Okay, for completeness, now I'm configuring the Microsoft peering. So let's go back to my start page, select all resources, go to the DE-CIX tree, that's my test circuit, and click on Microsoft peering. Again, I have to put in an AS number. This is the same. And I have to put in this time, I have to put in public transfer networks for primary subnet and also for the secondary subnet. Oops, that's the wrong one. /30. And I have to put in again the VLAN ID. And if you have a look here at my diagram, for the Microsoft peering, I have chosen the number 11 here. So I'm putting in number 11 as the public prefix. And as I want to announce some prefixes to that, I have to tell Microsoft which prefixes I want to announce. And these also have to be official prefixes. And they have to register with one of the RIRs. And in Europe, that's RIPE NCC. If this is too confusing, talk to your networking team who do the BGP configuration. They should know what to do. So now let's click Save, and the Microsoft peering is now being configured. And let's have a look. Oh, of course, I have to configure my side as well. How could I forget? So first, again, two interfaces with the correct encapsulation. So 31 again for primary, 32 for secondary, and in this case, the 11 to select the Microsoft peering service. And I also have to configure BGP. So also again to the peering addresses, to the addresses of the other side we have configured here. And let's have a look how it looks like. It's not up yet. So did I do a mistake, or does Microsoft just take its time? Let's have a look at the peering service. Oh, it's not provisioned. What did I do? What did I do? Did I forget to click save? Probably. So let's configure that again. Sorry for that, but that's what happens during a live webinar. If I make a mistake, you're all going to see it. /30 and the VLAN ID number 11 and the network I'm going to announce. So that's a /24. Oh, okay. All right, I did not make a mistake. Microsoft just took its time. So let's have a look here. What's happening? It's now provisioned and it's up and running. So we have now also Microsoft peering. What can I do with Microsoft peering? I can add a route filter. So any of the Microsoft public services can be routed through Microsoft peering. So how do I configure what I really want from Microsoft? Again, I need to create a resource for that. And this resource is called a route filter. So clicking on route filter, click on create, and again, use a resource group, give it a name. Let's call it test filter. Click on create, and we now have configured the filter. And we also need to add a circuit to that. Takes a while again. So it's deployed. Where is my test filter? Where is my test filter? Let's go to all resources. Here is the test filter. And I need to add a circuit. And again, that's my express route circuit. And I need to tell what services I want to see on that filter. So to do that, I click on Manage Rule. I give it a name again, and I select, for example, Azure Germany West, Azure Germany North, and I click on Save. So I have now created a filter. I have attached it to my circuit, and I have created two rules for that. And let's have a look if anything already happens. Not yet. Microsoft is really slow today. I wish they wouldn't be. Usually this is much quicker. So, but you get a nice notification here when it is done. No, it's not done yet. So here it's added. Now we get a notification. So the filter is now attached, but the rule isn't there. Still need a few seconds. And here we go. We receive already 21 prefixes here via the primary connection, and I guess via the secondary connection. It's following up a few seconds later. Let's have a look at that. So PGP neighbor, IP address, routes, and these are the prefixes now receiving via the Microsoft peering. So, and that's it. You just can click on the Microsoft portal, whatever you need. So, what did we do? We configured private peering with Microsoft. And with private peering, you can get prefixes from your own cloud services to your router via the express route services, via DE-CIX. And we configured the Microsoft peering. Via Microsoft peering, you get official Microsoft prefixes. And all this mix you can configure on the Microsoft portal yourself, whatever you need. And the bandwidth, keep in mind, if you need more bandwidth, talk to your DE-CIX sales representative. to get an upgrade, and after DE-CIX confirms that the bandwidth has been increased, then increase the bandwidth on the Microsoft portal. Reason for that is you can always increase your bandwidth, but you cannot decrease it on Microsoft. So I hope that you have gained a little bit more insight how DE-CIX direct cloud services work, how DE-CIX can connect you to Microsoft Azure, and what you can do with it. If you have not yet downloaded the handouts document, please do so. It contains all the example configuration I have done on the Cisco router. Otherwise, thanks for listening. I'm Wolfgang Tremmel. This is the DE-CIX Academy. See you next time. Bye-bye.